Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development Program, and in particular the AWD 1111.NET Framework with Web Databases class, I've been preparing a series of video presentations for the textbook that we're going to use for the class for the fall 2019 semester. That textbook being Pro ASP.NET, MVC 5, and a press text by Adam Freeman. So far, out of the 27 chapters in the book, I have done lectures on the first 4 chapters. Putting ASP.NET in context, your first MVC application, the MVC pattern, and essential language features, which brings us to Chapter 5, working with Razor. I did want to mention, though, before we start, that I am taping this from the confines of my kitchen table, so if the acoustics sound a little different, be they better or worse, that's why. I've got my cell phone on, and if it rings, I might have to pause the video. I don't like to do that, but I might be getting a call. So let's get going. Again, Chapter 5, working with Razor. A view engine processes ASP.NET content and looks for instructions, typically to insert dynamic content into the output that is sent to the browser. Razor is the name of the MVC framework view engine. In this chapter, the author gives what he calls a quick tour of the Razor syntax, and again, pretty much via using an example project. Alright, so he's just going to make an empty project called Razor, choosing the MVC configuration. So let's do the same. Alright, so we will create a new project. As always, we'll have to search for what we're looking for. ASP.NET Web Application.NET Framework. We're going to call this Razor, and we will call the solution name Chapter05. Create. We want it to be empty, but we want to choose MVC, so we've got our beginning file structure. And hopefully, here we go. So there's Chapter 5, which I spelled wrong. I wonder if you can rename this. Rename CHAPTER05. Hit in. Alright, that looks good. And Razor, I'm not going to go over that stuff. We've already talked about that before. Okay, I'm going to start with a simple domain model called product, defined in a file called product.cs, which will be added to the models folder, and the contents are shown on the next page here. Very similar to stuff we've already seen. So let's grab that. Right mouse click on models, add class. One more time, I think it was product. Is it product? Yes. Product, there it is, and we are to add this. All right. Very similar to the stuff we looked at in the last chapter. Oops. That up and that up. Now the author is going to follow the MVC framework convention and define a controller called home. As the initial startup for the project, right mouse click on controllers, choose add controller, controller empty, add. When you click the second add button, and Visual Studio should create the controller's home controller. Also the controllers, or I'm sorry, the home folder inside of our view folder. and we are to go in and change the contents as shown. So hold on, let me go and create it first. So we are right mouse clicking on this, choosing add controller, MVC empty. We're going to call it home controller. Click add our second time, and you'll notice there's our home folder and there's our home controller.cs. Alright, let's go back to here. They want us to change the content so it looks like this. Probably easiest, considering we're just starting up, to just literally throw it right in there. So I'm removing what's in there and replacing it with this. Okay, all right. The controller defines an action that's called index, in which the author will create and populate the properties of a product object. All right, I passed the product, the my product, which is right there, which contains the stuff you see here, to the view method so that it is used as the model when the view is rendered. I do not specify the name of the view file when I call the view method, so the default view will be used. Index right there. So we will right click on the index method of the home controller, choose add view, ensure that the name is index, change the template to empty, select product for the model class. All right, before we do that, let's come in here, let's do a file, save all, and a build solution, which sometimes can be helpful in this situation. We are going to then right mouse click here and choose add view. All right, we want index, we want this to be empty, and we want the model to be our product razor model. I believe this is all correct. Let's double check. Select product for the model class. I think that's what we just did. Model class is product. All right, so the initial contents should be shown. Let's double check and make sure that this is what they look like. Didn't say anything about how to set these that I saw, so I'm just going to leave them the way they are. Click add. Now, if you make a mistake doing this, you can always remove it. Well, it doesn't look like that's at all what they show in the book, so we can always just grab what's in the book. Let's do that. All right. I like to do some separation using some white space in here. As you know, it's totally unnecessary. So, all right, so we've just got that we're accessing the product, the models, product, right there. Now in views, home, we have our index file. This up a little bit. All right, and we just basically have the equivalent of a blank HTML template in here. All right, I am at 9.5 minutes, so we can continue on. Working with the object model, I'm on the bottom of page 97. So the author says, let's start with the first line that's in the view. Back, let's just go on there. And that is at model razor.models.product. You know by now, or hopefully you do, that a razor statement starts with the at sign. This model statement declares the type of the model object that will be passed to the view from the action method. So now we can refer to the methods, fields, and properties of that view model object through the @model that's shown there. The author mentions a little bit later on the page here that we are to add this @model.name. Whoops, don't know what I did there. Inside of our div. So let's grab this. That's why I'm getting it, because I'm clicking on there. All right. That's fine. @model with a big M dot name. And let's see, once we do this, we've hit the dot. Notice the IntelliSense that comes up. We get name, price, product ID, etc., which were all the fields that we defined earlier. All right, so there's our @model.name that we were told to put in. The author says, note I declare the view object model type up here using a lowercase m, and then we access the name using an uppercase M. The author says that may seem a little different, but that's just the way that it is. All right, so we are to start the project, and ideally we're going to see the word kayak. So I am going to save all and start this. We're just telling it right here to print out the name. That name, and we'll look to verify that indeed it's kayak. There it is. So what we're telling it to do is we're telling it to go back to our model, all right, and basically grab that name property which was set inside of our home controller right there. So by using the @model expression, we tell MVC the kind of object we'll be working with. Visual Studio takes advantage of this in a couple ways. First, as we're writing the view, it pops up suggestions. You saw that with the IntelliSense. Equally useful, it says there, so this is what we'd already see, is that Visual Studio will flag errors when there are problems in the model view object. So if we put something in there that doesn't exist, like they show here. All right. All right, I'm up to 13.5 minutes. So rather than starting on working with layouts, which we're going to do in just a minute, okay, let's stop the presentation right now, and we'll continue this in part 2 in a matter of moments.